everybody, and welcome to Energetic Principles Report for the solar eclipse in Leo. My name is Melissa LaFera, and I am an astrologer and tarot reader from San Diego, California. So today we're going to talk about what to expect from the solar eclipse in Leo, the Sabian symbol represented for this degree, and also what the tarot has to say about it. So let's get started.
And may the stars be with you.
Okay, so solar eclipse in Leo. So much has been talked about this. I don't know what else there is to say, but I'm going to give you my take on the whole thing. So just to remind you, this will be our second new moon in Leo, which is not a common thing. We had one earlier in the season, right at, I believe it was 0 degrees Leo. And so here we are having the solar eclipse at 28 degrees Leo. And just for some exact information on that, it's going to happen Monday, August 21st at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, which is 6:30 p.m. Universal Time, and Tuesday, August 22nd at 6:30 a.m. Aussie Eastern Time. And like I said, that will be at 28 degrees Leo. So let's talk about this eclipse and what to expect. You know, when we have a solar eclipse, what that means is essentially the sun is getting eclipsed by the moon. So there is that brief moment where the lights go out and everything is dark around us. And that darkness, that unconscious material might come to light. And usually, you know, the two eclipses are tied in with each other. First, we had that lunar eclipse in Aquarius a couple weeks ago on the 7th, and that might have brought up some subconscious issues to light that are now going to kind of come to the conscious self now that we're having that solar eclipse in Leo. So you might see things come up that might have been starting to bubble around the surface during that lunar eclipse degree. So just so you know, for eclipses, to have an eclipse, basically it has to be and what makes an eclipse is the moon and the sun have to be near the north node and the south node, the nodal points. And so for an eclipse to actually occur, you have to be plus or minus 18 degrees, and then it might occur. And then if you're plus or minus 15 degrees, it will occur, but it'll be partial. But it takes that plus or minus 9 degrees in order for it to be a total eclipse, which this is a total eclipse. And that's why they're calling it the Great American Eclipse, because the eclipse path will be showing on the North American continent in a very interesting placement, I have to say, for especially what's going on in America right now. So just know that this eclipse is actually within 4 degrees of our north node in Leo. So this is a very poignant eclipse. It is total. And so for any of you out there that have planets at the end degrees of fixed signs, either Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus, this is going to be a big deal for you. It's going to be a big deal for everyone, but you guys are going to be kind of more on the front line of it, if I were to use a war analogy, which I don't want to go there, because I think that solar eclipse, you know, it's something that brings new beginnings into our lives. And you know, sometimes you just need a new beginning, and here we are ready to refresh that energy. The sun will have just trined Uranus, so there's that kind of stepping into our own independence and a need for freedom, and there might be a little restlessness where we're going to want to break free in our lives to get us in a better place. So it being in Leo and it's a fixed sign, you know, we're talking about what brings us a greater joy, what fills our heart and allows us to express ourselves. What's our passion? You know, what are we enthusiastic about? You know, what does our inner child say? And so all these things are kind of coming up that we need to get in line with, so that we can really use this solar eclipse energy to bring some newness in our lives. So that being said, you know, here we have a fixed sign as well, which means, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great spark of change in something that's totally different direction, or necessarily ending. I think it's going to be a reappraisal around something that already exists exists, so that we can regain enthusiasm and some new ways of invention around renewing an area of our life, especially around what brings us joy and how we express ourselves. So, you don't have to get rid of the whole thing, everything that we've built up until this point. If anything, we're going to be eclipsing in a way that is going to align with our heart's intentions more and get that stable patterns, that stable pattern that we already have in place, that foundation, and kind of just push us along that path, but in a new, inventive way that's more aligned with our own hearts. So that being said, here the sun in Leo, it's in dignity. The sun in Leo, that's the strongest place for the sun to be. So to have a solar eclipse there, this is a big deal. And this is the first eclipse of our, in the North Node, now that the nodes are in Leo Aquarius axis. So, this is kind of kicking off that nodal structure, even though we've been in it for a handful of months now. But I think the juice is kind of just kicking in now. So, and I do want to share that a lot of this has been talked about and discussed within the Feminine Principle podcast, which is a podcast I do with Shauna McGrath of Neo-Feminine Astrology. So I'm kind of just touching on little bits and pieces here in this video to give you a little more insight. But I highly recommend that you check that out to see what we have to say together, because I think we both had some excellent points to make on this eclipse. So please check that out. That is at feminineprinciplepodcast.podbean.com, or you can find it here on YouTube in the link that I've included in this video. So that being said, we have Uranus involved. We are ready to break free from the old molds of what we are. We're approaching Saturn transits because Mars is right there on this eclipse in Leo, backing it up. And so it's about to contact Saturn, it's contacting Jupiter. We're getting some foundations in place so that we can kind of go forward with all these new inspirations that are coming during this time. So just know there's a lot of planetary juice behind what's going on. And if you can hear that siren right now, I think that is the ding that, yes, that's true. So just know that the planets are really supporting this to be something of a grand nature. And if you've been following the world at all, or any of the politics going on, and stirring up all this inspiration and fire-like energy and this kind of crisis of the spirit, in a sense, I'm hoping that this eclipse helps to bring some new information to light that could really benefit not us personally, but the world on a grander scale. So that being said, another little interesting tidbit about this eclipse, because we do have Mercury retrograde right now in Virgo, and that will happen until September 5th, where Mercury retrogrades back to, you guessed it, the point of the eclipse. How interesting is that? Like, the talk about universe having divine timing. This is it. And not only that, Mars will have progressed to the degree of the eclipse as well. And there's certain theory around that when the Mars hits the degree point, that activates things. So we might see some activation of this solar eclipse much sooner than other eclipses that have happened. Because usually an eclipse, it has some immediate things that happen, but a lot of times it takes about 6 to 8 months to start to really manifest in our lives. So just keep that in mind, that chances are when Mercury goes direct and around that time of, early September, there can be a really key nugget coming into our awareness based on this eclipse. So I highly recommend that. But all in all, I think this is a place where I feel great about these new beginnings that are happening, and I think, it gets us out of our comfort zones, and that might not be so comfortable for all, especially the fixed signs that are gonna really feel it. Fixed doesn't necessarily like to move. But, be patient with yourself and just take the time to really embrace the changes that are happening, and just know that if you go with the flow and stay true to your own heart, then you're gonna end up on the right side of things. All right, so let's talk about the Sabian symbol associated with this degree, this eclipse degree. And if you've seen previous videos, you know that with Sabian symbols, we're going to take the degree in the minutes and we're going to round up. So because we have 52 minutes at this 28 degrees of Leo, it makes it 29 degrees Leo. And so Dane Rudyard paints this picture for 29 degrees Leo. He says, A mermaid emerges from the ocean waves, ready for rebirth in human form. A mermaid emerges from the ocean waves, ready for rebirth in human form. How beautiful is that? I mean, really, like in a sense of like the solar eclipse and like coming out of this, the lunar eclipse and bringing what was subconscious basically to light. I couldn't think of a better eclipse point or Sabian symbol to really go along with the themes that are happening here. And so the keynote to take away here is the stage at which an intense feeling, intuition, rises from the unconscious is about to take form as a conscious thought. So here we have all these things coming up and that are bubbling under the surface in this deep ocean of the, the superconscious in a sense. And now that mermaid is trying to merge herself into this earthly realm where we have things of a tangible form. It's the idea of where we can take our own intuition and our own creativity and take it past that initial inspiration and thought to something that is actually of a solidity and in concrete form in this world. And I think a lot of this eclipse is tying into that, especially with the Saturn aspects that are involved, and also that Uranian impulse where we are birthing these like kind of unconscious, kind of quick little insights in a sense. So I think that's something that's really trying to merge here, and to tie that in with the lunar eclipse, what has been bubbling under the surface or the things we've dealt with there. I think there's going to be like a spotlight shown in this area to where we can really bring a lot of things into consciousness. And then that is really taken on by do we have what it takes to carry it further? I mean, does that idea and that inspiration stay just that and recede back into that ocean? Or does the mermaid come out and start to live this actual life form to where we have, she's got legs. She's like Ariel now, she's out there. She's part of the people. So it's all about, creating concreteness in a tangible expression from these this underbelly that is lying below. So the key note here, the key word is yearning for conscious form and solidity. So how can we bring all these inspirations and all this, unconscious material that's coming to light now and really make that work for us and send us in the direction that we're trying to go, and take all those key insights and just that creative juice that we have right now and make that something tangible in our lives that we can really hold on to and share with others. All right, let's see what the tarot has to say about this new moon solar eclipse in Leo. All right, so we have the Ace of Wands as our focus and the Nine of Pentacles as our grounding. Those are excellent cards, I have to say, for this new moon solar eclipse. Like I've said earlier, if you watch the podcast, we mentioned some cards there too. And I think those two card combinations work so well together. It really does. And so what I'm getting from this is that it's kind of obvious, we're going to have new vitality and inspiration in our lives, that bursting of the Ace of Wands where it's new growth, you start to see those leaves begin to form, and there's just that enthusiasm and that vitality around, it's like true life force in its essence. There is essentially, serious potential there. But just like that mermaid that's coming out of the ocean, unless you put that into concrete form and put some solid, tangible effort around it, then it might recede back in. So just know that this is a potential. This is an extreme potential and a burst, in a sense, that we can grab a hold of and use. And that's why I love that the Nine of Pentacles is there, because the Nine of Pentacles is taking something really to the end of its manifestation. So we're having these insights and this inspiration now that is really propelling us to step into, our own independence and our own self-reliance, which is very a Uranian thing as well. It's, we have Uranus in Aries that's making contacts to all this solar eclipse action. So it makes sense to me that we are, stepping into our ability, especially in Leo, to stand on our own and be self-reliant with our own inspirations and our own growth and our own creative potential, in a sense, to really make lasting achievements and efforts in life, because the Nine of Pentacles, she's made it, she's made it. She doesn't need anybody else. She knows true abundance, and she can find peace within being herself and what she's created. So I think that's a very beautiful lesson for the solar eclipse in Leo. How can we take this new vitality we're having and bring it into manifestation? That seems to be the great theme here. So how can we do that? All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to find me and find out more about where I am, what I do, and the services I have to offer, I do readings, you can find me at energeticprinciples.com. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Energetic Principles. And I also have a podcast, which I've talked about a couple times this episode, with Shauna McGrath of Neo-Feminine Astrology, and that is called The Feminine Principle, Astrology for Authentic Living. So please check that out, and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear what you have to say, and please share. So that being said, I'd love to know what you think about this solar eclipse and what's going on for you. So if you feel so inclined, please leave comments down below and share this video with others if you find that it is relevant to yourself and possibly for them. And lastly, if you like what you see, please subscribe to my channel, as I have new moon videos all the time, each month, and I have horoscopes and all kinds of things to watch and look at. So I do encourage that. So I'm wishing everybody solar eclipse blessings and the best for the end of this Leo season, because we're about to move into Virgo and it's time to get to work. So that being said, may the stars be with you.